Hey everybody, welcome inside Lambeau Field. Matthew Coller and Dane Mizutani, the Pioneer Press, following the Minnesota Vikings 2-point victory over the Green Bay Packers. What a day it was for the Minnesota Vikings for, I guess, your nerves to be reminded that, yes, this can very much happen to the Vikings team. And now the Minnesota Vikings are 4-0. So in the opening statement, I just want to say this, Dane, that I understand where a lot of people want to go with this conversation. I totally get that what you just saw in the second half of that football game was pretty gnarly and that they did not close it out the way that they should have. And there were numerous times where early in the third quarter, I was saying, maybe you should just keep giving it to Aaron Jones, or maybe you should just throw some screens or whatever else. And the defense was not infallible as it was in the last couple of weeks. Here on the road, a different story than it was at US Bank Stadium. But let us not, Mr. Mizutani, miss the forest through the trees. The Minnesota Vikings are 4-0. This is a dream scenario. If I told you before the game and I didn't tell you anything about how they got there, that they won 31-29 and they were able to close them out with a very impressive Sam Darnold drive, you would have shot to the moon with excitement. So I understand that finally, for the first time, we have something to complain about, which we have not before this day. But let us not miss the fact that they will go to London against a mediocre Jets team with a chance to start this NFL season 5-0 when the outside universe thought that they could be a 6 or 7 win team. And we were only thinking 9 wins, both of us before the season. But now they are almost halfway there with one of the most impressive 4-game runs that we have seen since either one of us has covered the team, considering that all of these teams outside of the New York Giants, the last 3 games, are all tremendous football teams. And I just have to say about Jordan Love, not perfect, a wild ride, but my gosh, he was crazy good in the second half of the game. He's not somebody that you can just let down your guard with. So this, though, for the Vikings, I'm going to lean toward in this postgame show that this is more impressive than it was frustrating in the second half, and that they are now in position to make a case for themselves as the best team in the National Football League. Your thoughts, Dane?
My thoughts, I agree, or I can see why people would be frustrated, like you said. But I would caution, like, let's just enjoy this ride because they are 4-0. And this is a team, like we talked about, wasn't supposed to do anything from a national perspective. There was an ESPN bet model that said they were going to be the worst team in the league. Like, this team had zero expectations going into the season. And then they beat the Giants, then they beat the 49ers, then they beat the Houston Texans, and now they beat the Green Bay Packers. I get it because this could have been such a dominant victory where you just celebrate them as how good can they be? You can still do that. And I think why you can still do that is because this is the NFL. And generally speaking, we don't get a lot of blowouts. I know the Vikings have done it twice this year to the Giants and to the Houston Texans last week. So you just kind of assume when they go up 28-0, oh, here we got another blowout on our hands. But it's the NFL. And this is the Green Bay Packers, and they are one of the better teams in the NFC with one of the better quarterbacks in the NFC playing at home. They were going to punch back. Did you let them in the game at times with, the Jalen Naylor muff punt? Absolutely. Were there things the Vikings need to clean up? Absolutely. And we will talk about all those things. But big picture, they're 4-0. They walked into Lambeau. They were dominant for 30 minutes. And when they had to have it late, they got it. This is 2 times now where Sam Darnold had to have a drive late in a game, and he got it. He did it against San Francisco, and he did it today against Green Bay. I mean, I think that's probably the reality people should try to live in. I get it. The game was extremely frustrating, stressful, up and down, roller coaster, whatever cliche you want to use. But at the end of it, the Vikings are 4-0, like you said, going to London next week with a chance to go 5-0 and head into that bye week sitting pretty nice. So very impressive all around kind of start to this first month. But I thought today's game at times impressive, at times left things to be desired, but overall just a kind of continuation of a team that appears to be on the rise.
So we're going to talk about both sides of the win. I know most of you want us to jump right into the second half and how that went, but I would like to begin with the first half of the football game where the Vikings won this game. So let's talk about that first. Number one is just a reminder, a bulletin. Jordan Addison's still very good at football.
Very good at football.
He, after the game, said his ankle felt good and he seemed quite pleased with his performance, and he should be because he comes right out of the gate, runs a ridiculous route, shakes his man completely and goes easy into the end zone, 7-0, just like that. I mean, this team has found a way early in games in their opening script to get ahead. And you can't complain about letting leads slip a little bit in the second half if you're not destroying the other team early in the game. And to have Jordan Addison back along with Jalen Nailor. So Jalen Nailor did not have a big game by any means today, but the fact that you know that he can, to go along with Addison, to go along with Justin Jefferson, this is starting to be the thing that they were aiming for. And we also got some news today from Adam Schefter that we should look for TJ Hockenson a little bit more after the bye week, that maybe the Rams or even the Colts game is when he'll come back. But thinking about this offense and what it can look like with TJ Hockenson back in the mix, and what it did look like for the majority of today for Sam Darnold, and how he was able to just jump on the Green Bay Packers defense. They got good pass protection early, but that's always combined with receivers being wide open. It's way easier to drop back and throw it when you're confident about who you're throwing the football to. And to have Addison back in the mix is a reminder, like, oh yeah, this guy can get open against one-on-one coverage pretty much whenever he wants to. So that to me was the biggest part of the first half of the game. Aaron Jones ran the football pretty well. They pass protected pretty well. Justin Jefferson did some special things with his reception in the end zone. But when we always go back to Sam Darnold and his confidence, and you assume that a guy who's been through so much in his life would be a little bit shaky in his confidence, the fact that he has these guys is the most easy confidence booster. And now I don't want to take anything away from Kevin O'Connell and the offense and the design and getting guys open and getting them one-on-one, but his life is way easier when he has Jordan Addison to be wide open on that route. And Darnold was talking about after the game just how the organization and the locker room welcomed him in and why he's been performing the way he has here. I thought another tremendous game. We'll grade it a little later, but another tremendous game for Sam Darnold. The biggest thing always comes back to these receivers, their ability to make special plays. And at the beginning of the game, they get up because of it. And then they close the game because of it on that final drive where you got a Chris Carter catch from Justin Jefferson. And then it's all combined together to be, I think, strong and also deserving of talking about that this can continue to happen, because we've always seen it continue to happen when it comes to guys like Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, and this receiving core, I think, and when you add in TJ Hockenson, is I think it's the best in the league. Like, I really do. You have the best receiver in football, Justin Jefferson, the way he shows it, continuing to do it week after week. I mean, the touchdown catch was disgusting, the way he slowed his gait and kind of just he's totally covered by Keshawn Nixon, and then he's not. He just slows down, catches the ball. It looked like Randy Moss. And then he looked like Chris Carter late. So like when you have someone like that leading the receiving core, I think sometimes you can say, well, that's just the guy. That's it. But there's so much more after that. And I think we almost forget how good Jordan Addison is until we see him in person again and again and again. Because there was through that 2 weeks when Jalen Nailor was putting up production. Here I am thinking, like, I mean, maybe it's just whoever's in that wide receiver 2 role is going to be able to flourish because there's so much attention on Justin and the scheme works out well, and it's not. Jordan Addison's special, and if you have him paired with Justin Jefferson, with an emergence of Jalen Nailor and TJ Hockenson coming on the way, like, you're right. Like, I think I was impressed with Sam Darnold's poise and confidence late, but it's really easy to have poise and confidence when the Packers cut it to 6 and you're able to just go out there, look in the huddle, see Justin Jefferson, see Jordan Addison, see Aaron Jones, who had a good game, see 2 left tackles, or left tackle Christian Darrisaw and right tackle Brian O'Neill. Like, there's just so much there to kind of uplift Sam Darnold even when there are moments of struggle. But yeah, I think you're right when you highlight the receiving core and just the group of pass catchers. That would make anyone confident, and I think we saw that play out multiple times today in really big moments.
On the defensive side, early in the game, it looked like Jordan Love shouldn't be in the game, actually. And I guess his knee got a little more healed in the second half when they put less pressure on him. And he made some special throws, but some receivers were really wide open in the second half. But the way that this defense has been able to cause turnovers,
Mhm.
I feel like has been one of the biggest factors for why the offense has been so successful, is that they're just getting extra opportunities, multiple interceptions, taking the ball away from Jordan Love. And it's always hard to determine, like, is that something they can keep doing? Byron Murphy gets the pick. He causes the fumble at the end of the game. And what was it? Was it 5 turnovers for the Packers today?
Yep.
I mean, to be able to do that on the back of the last couple of weeks, they got a lot more sacks, a bunch of sacks. What was it? Maybe 15 over the first 3 weeks. It was ridiculous the way that they were able to pressure the quarterback. But today it was not that same level of pressure. I don't even know. Did they sack Jordan Love? Maybe one
One
time,
sack.
one
Yep.
time today, and that was really it. But they found ways to do it in different ways by causing turnovers, and they weren't perfect in the second half of the game. In fact, they really struggled with wide open receivers and yet kept showing up at the biggest times. Sometimes that can be a regression thing. That can be, well, you're not going to get 5 turnovers every game. But I think when we look at the accumulation of the first 4 games, what we see is a lot of different ways of winning. Against Houston, it is turnovers. It's also stopping the run. Early on against Daniel Jones, it's pressuring him. It was putting CJ Stroud in hell inside of US Bank Stadium. This is not a place where you're going to be able to pressure the quarterback the same. It's just not the same atmosphere as it is on your side in US Bank Stadium. But especially early in the game, I thought they did a good job of not letting the Packers run over them and took advantage of the fact that Love did look very rusty at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, they at the beginning of the game, it looked like Jordan Love shouldn't be in the game, and that was a testament, I think, more so to the Vikings than Jordan Love's knee. Like, I think we saw as the game progressed, Jordan Love did get into a groove. Is he 100%? I don't know. I would guess not. But he looked like a shell of himself, probably partially due to rust, but largely due to what the Vikings are capable of doing on defense. And I think it's a good point you made about, like, there's just different ways to do it. It's not always going to be a dominant performance like we saw last week against the Houston Texans, where they made CJ Stroud look like he didn't know how to play quarterback for a long time. Uh, like, that's not how it's going to play out every week. This is the NFL, and these are the best of the best. And while they made Jordan Love look as uncomfortable as they made CJ Stroud look, as they made Brock Purdy look, as they made Daniel Jones look, they made him look that uncomfortable through about 30 minutes. There was always going to be, I think, an ascension from Jordan Love playing at home when that juice is kind of back in the building. But to your point about how there's different ways you can win, well, yeah, the Packers put up 29, but the Vikings forced 2 big turnovers late. Jordan Love kind of popped one into the sky, and Byron Murphy just camps under it for an interception. But then late in the game, when there's another opportunity for the Packers to make it close, Byron Murphy punches the ball out, and that's just, I think, it's a commitment from the Vikings defense to, like, attacking the ball and in finding ways to kind of impact this game even when you're not blanking them like I think we've been used to over the first month. So it's great signs for the defense, and it's I think another example of how good this defense can be. It doesn't always have to be hold the other team to 7 points. I know there was a lot of smoke about how through 3 weeks they had only allowed 30 points, and now they've allowed basically 30 points today. But I'd still say it was a pretty good performance from the defense. And I think another thing that needs to be said is after the game when you hear Blake Cashman or even Kevin O'Connell talk about this defense, and, like, they're not satisfied with what they did today. They weren't like, "Oh, we turned them over 4 or 5 times. We're good." I think everyone was kinda lamenting that second half, and I would assume they're gonna come into London pretty hungry for a better performance against Aaron Rodgers.
Well, there was a really interesting conversation, you could call it, that we were having with Kevin O'Connell after this game because it was multiple questions and
Mhm.
multiple answers that he weaved into his idea of aggressiveness. And I thought it was him basically saying that I know you guys, meaning us, are going to do your post-game podcast and you're going to say, hey, Kevin, remember Aaron Jones is on your team when you're up by 28 or even 21 in the middle of the third quarter. Not just run the ball over and over, but short passes, screens, keep that clock churning. The longer you have the ball, the longer they don't have the ball. And the one thing you can't do is turn it over, like throwing an interception in the red zone, where that was another spot. If you just run the football, then you're going to be pretty successful there. And I thought the king of this was Kevin Stefanski of just putting teams away in 2019 and against San Francisco. And then here again today, I thought they left the door open. Well, it's a fact. They absolutely left the door open today, but too much by being aggressive. And essentially what O'Connell says is, I'm not going to apologize for that. And it was kind of hell or high water with the aggressiveness, because at times it being aggressive and throwing the ball, they had one negative run from Aaron Jones, and it was like, all right, I'm not doing that anymore. He lost 2 yards back to the pass. It's like, it's okay to be in 2nd and 12 when you're running that clock. And if you throw a short, quick pass to somebody and you keep it moving, there was a time where Darnold got sacked where it was like a 9-step drop back or something, and they were able to get in. And he's saying, well, we didn't, protect well enough. You shouldn't have to be talking about pass protecting that way when you are up by 21 points or 14 points. Then you shouldn't have to worry about the other team pinning its ears back and coming after you, because you should be playing it in a way that is safely aggressive, not running deep routes down the field where Sam Darnold doesn't have an easy check down. This is my issue. But essentially what O'Connell says is, I don't care, because then they're up by 2 and they could have done the same thing, which was hand off 3 times that we were talking about, or played it safe, and they decided not to, and then stayed aggressive, and it worked out in their favor with a couple of huge plays by the greatest receiver on this planet, and that's how they end up closing out the game and winning it. So where is your mind, Dane, on how Kevin O'Connell approached the second half? Because I didn't feel like they got conservative. I saw, and maybe he's mentioned that or something, or somebody mentioned that like that. No, I thought they were throwing more than I would have expected. But he's going to keep doing that. That's his philosophy.
Yeah, I can understand the frustration of Vikings are up by 21 points. Just keep running the ball, keep running the clock each time you run. It doesn't necessarily mean you're succumbing to a 3 and out either. You have Aaron Jones, who's very, very, very good. But I guess what I would say on the opposite side of that is, how many times have we watched football in the past and we have scolded that head coach for saying, you can't run the clock out with 30 minutes left in the game. You have to stay aggressive. You have to keep your foot on the gas. And so while I can appreciate that Kevin O'Connell wants to put his foot on the gas and keep his foot on the gas and keep being aggressive, I do think that there's probably a happy medium there, and it's a feel thing. And I don't know exactly where that feel lands, like, but I think that it still needs to be figured out, like, to a degree. I appreciate the aggressiveness because I have watched, I went to the University of Minnesota. I've watched teams just get a lead, and I've watched them just run into the back of the center and the guard and just hope that they can just melt 40 seconds off the clock 3 plays at a time before they punt. And that you can't win a football game like that. So I do appreciate Kevin O'Connell's aggressiveness in that sense. But you're right, there are ways to be aggressive with, like, conservative play calling to a degree. We kept talking about this in the press box. Like, you can throw a screen, like, the screens work. You can have, like, a crosser over the middle. We saw that late where Justin Jefferson just catches a little crosser and takes it for 27 yards. It does seem like there is this idea of, like, well, I wanna show the guys that I'm aggressive, and I want them to know I believe in them. And while I do appreciate that, I don't think that always has to be, 5-step drop, 3 guys going 20 yards down the field. There can be, like, a happy medium there. But I'm not gonna sit here and just hate on him and say, "Keep running the ball and try and get that clock to die," because I am the first one a lot of times scolding a head coach for trying to run the clock out. But there needs to be some feel, and I think that over time, he's going to, get a better feel for how to play with a big lead. He never has before this year. It's always been close games. So maybe there is a little bit there of like you have to kind of be in it to know when to do what. I think for him, staying aggressive just means pushing the ball downfield. You can stay aggressive without doing that.
Well, that's exactly my thing, because I know that I was harassing you and Will Regetz in the press box where it was like, guys, why aren't they running the ball? Why aren't they running the ball more in this situation? Because you do have two really excellent running backs. If they didn't, then I would understand it a little bit more. But this is Aaron Jones's house for a reason. And not only can you hand him the ball, you can throw him the ball. You can line him up at wide receiver. It seems like there are safe ways to do this that don't include always having to dagger someone. And also, that's why I found this so interesting, is that when he talked about why he was doing it, he was not saying, guys, I have this data and Kwesi gave me these numbers about being aggressive toward the end of a game, and we've studied this, and this. He was saying, I want to prove it to the locker room. And well, that's great. I think that the locker room knows that you're a good coach and knows that you believe in them and knows that you believed in them. Well, everybody else was hating on the outside, or the doubters, so to speak, as that's, I won't even get into that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think there's anybody who ever thought that Kevin O'Connell didn't believe in his players or didn't believe in Sam Darnold. He has been the biggest Sam Darnold guy from day one that they got him, where he came out and he said, let's not everybody forget about Sam Darnold. They draft a quarterback, and he's scolding us like, hey, don't forget about Sam Darnold, right? I know you're talking about the exciting rookie, but I believe in this guy. He was telling people, from what I heard outside of the building, that he believed in Sam Darnold. He doesn't need to throw passes and put him in situations where he might throw an interception or he might get sacked because he's over trusting him. He does have to remember that Sam Darnold is still prone to some stuff like this. And today was the day where I thought we saw the most scary Sam. And you look at the end of the day, his numbers are absolutely fantastic again, but there were way more, I don't know, Sam, what are you doing? Type of things where you do want him to throw it away. And you do want him to be a little more safe with the throw up that ends up as an interception that I know might not have been. By the way, real quick, we have a new thing, the super chat. This was suggested to me, so I thank Lefty for jumping in the super chat. Says absolutely has to have better situational play calling, and I think thanks for that, Lefty. I really appreciate that. So feel free to get involved with the super chat. I'll put your thing on the screen in the post game. But I mean, I think that that's what it really is. It's the situational play calling, and he has to also understand that everyone knows he buys into them. And that it doesn't always have to be some sort of like, I need to show you, I need to show you. And at the same time, they just beat the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau, and they did it in part because they were aggressive at the end of the game. And that's where I keep kind of swinging back and forth on this entire subject, because I would be more the type of person, analytical, to lean toward, don't just kneel it down, don't, because the other team will come back. That's where it feels very delicate when it comes to that.
Yeah, and the situational play calling and the need to improve that was on display. I think there was a 3rd and 1 late where you could probably just run the ball. They end up throwing a crosser. I think it was late in the first half to Brandon Powell. Brandon Powell actually gets hurt on the play, and then Jalen Naylor has the muff punt. So there were times where I think, yeah, the situational play calling left something to be desired, but the aggressiveness is why they won the game. It's why they won the game. It's why they went up early in the first half, and it's why when the Green Bay Packers cut it to 6, it's why the Vikings were able to go down and put 3 points on the board. A lot of teams in that scenario would have curled up, said, "Oh no, our 28-point lead now is a 6-point lead. We got to get this clock running." What's the first thing they do? They throw the ball to Justin Jefferson. Um, Again, that goes back to you can be aggressive smartly. You can be aggressive. It wasn't a 25-yard pass to Jefferson up the seam. It was a little crosser that ended up going for 17 yards, and it was a great throw by Sam Darnold. But I think that aggressiveness needs to be complemented when you are only up 6, and you are willing to go down and understand that you need points on that drive and not just try and run the clock out and pray that Aaron Jones breaks off a big run. So there is a duality of it, right? Like, I think for most of the second half, we're sitting there screaming like, "Run the ball more." But if they would have just run the ball when the Packers cut it to 6, I think it would have felt like, you don't really have a feel for what's going on here. So
And another part of this too, my thought process in saying to you over and over as I was eating my second brat and cheese curds in the Lambeau press box was that I thought the defense would be better than it was in the second half.
sure.
And so we're putting a lot of this on Kevin O'Connell. And I do think it should be. It's not just that it's not pass v run, it's what type of pass you're calling. And the fact that Justin Jefferson was taken out of the conversation in the third
Mhm.
quarter is also another part of it. Dane, this is before you, but I used to have a bit on the post-game show that if Jefferson didn't get 10 targets, that someone needed to go to jail, that someone needed to be arrested and hauled off in a wagon to prison if Jefferson didn't get 10 targets. I don't know if he got there today.
Checking right now.
And the fact that I'm not sure and the fact that he disappeared in the third quarter is absurd. That should not have happened. There should have been, what do you get?
He got 8 targets. So
Someone's going to prison.
there we go.
And
Let's bring the bit back.
that's just that is a fact. Someone needs to be arrested. For a win, maybe you send an intern, but someone's got to go. Like that's the type of situation where you have these superstar players. Just get them the football into their hands.
Mhm.
That is my only point. But still, when we look at the accumulation of points that this team has been able to put up with the aggressive mindset, it's a lot of points so far. They have one of the best offenses in the NFL at this moment, and they have a 4-0 record. So, how much do you really want to spend on this? On the defensive side, though, why, in your mind, do you feel like it was so much different today than it was against the Houston Texans?
Yeah, I think that has a large thing to do with just when you go up by 28 points, and you don't wanna get beat over the top. I they, like, started to kind of play almost like, and they always play a shell, but it was like felt like very much prevent defense down the stretch in the second half. Um, and I think that is probably just Brian Flores not wanting to give it all back in one play, make the Packers go the length of the field. Um, the only problem is that the Packers went the length of the field very, very quickly. But I think that the aggressiveness and the way that they were kind of playing defense through the first month, besides this game, was kind of nullified by the fact that they were up by so much. And I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, like in general, like putting an opposing offense in a must pass situation would allow you to dial up all these things and further confuse the offense. But I think this is just kind of how it goes in the NFL. When one team jumps out to a big lead, oftentimes the other defense, it's just human nature. Like it kind of they rear back a little bit. So I think it was more that. I don't think this is something that's going to become an issue long term. But I do think it's something that they need to address here heading into London next week.
Marley says, Matt, can you do a deep dive on KOC's tenure with third quarter offense? Feels like most games there's a struggle to move the ball in the third. I definitely have felt that way at times, especially back in 2022
Mhm.
when they were leading and they just wouldn't be able to put someone away. I usually attributed that to the quarterback because it was oftentimes Kirk Cousins' mentality to, all right, we're up by 6 points, so check it down. I mean, it's very unusual to be up by 28
Yeah.
or by even 21 in the second half of the game. That's the thing is with this whole, we're all adjusting to this. We haven't covered games like this in a really long time. But as far as O'Connell and when they're leading and trying to put someone away, I do feel like that's an area that they need to figure out a little bit. That said, they did it last week against the Houston Texans. Was this just this situation, things didn't go the way you expected, or is this a bigger Kevin O'Connell type of thing? I would also like to, push the brakes a little bit and just remind you that they're 4-0 now. I mean, and we're talking about, what did Kwesi adofo-mensah say? Champagne problems at the moment.
Mhm.
Man, what is this coach going to do when he gets up 21 in the second half? Can he even handle it? I mean, that's quite a thing to talk about. But I don't disagree, Marley, with what you're saying, that throughout his tenure, it has felt like they have not always been able to kind of finish the job there. But I think what Dane is saying is also relevant as well, which is it's the nature of the beast. I mean, look around at the different games today and how many had a lead, had a 2-score lead, somebody else came back. This team has a ton of talent. Would you be surprised at the end of the year if the Green Bay Packers have 10 wins themselves or 11 win themselves? They've got receivers. Jaden Reed is fantastic. Their quarterback is very, very talented, as you saw today. They have defensive players who can make plays. I kind of go back and forth a little bit on this, and I agree with the Flores point where it reminded me of what he did against Chicago last year, and where they tried to play Justin Fields way back, and they just left too much space. And the thing is, if you blitz like crazy and they hit a big play, then everyone's going to say, why did you blitz like crazy? What were you thinking? But if you play way back and they complete pass after pass, they're going to say, well, allowed too many of those completions. I don't know if there's a perfect way to do it, but I would lean toward, in this case, I don't want Flores to run the ball on the defense and wind the clock. I want him to stay aggressive. I want him to blitz. Some part of it, though, may have been just the fact that they're at Lambeau Field and not US Bank Stadium, and they may have felt like this is a little bit, not the place to go crazy like they were able to last week with CJ Stroud. So anyway, that's really all I have to say about the second half, because they won the football game. And had they blown it, this would be 100% of the entire show focused on that. But they didn't. They found a way, because I think they're so deep with defensive playmakers that even when they don't have their best day, someone is going to step up and take the football away or get a big sack or something like that. So this is a thing that even when the defense doesn't play his best, I believe that there's enough talent that you can rely on somebody getting in there, getting a pick, getting a big sack, whatever it might be. But this was definitely the first time, I think, with Brian Flores where we went, what the heck? Probably, I mean, one of the first times that we've questioned him really since he's been here, and it's in a win over the Packers, which says something. Each week, if you're new to the post game, welcome and thanks so much for joining us. We're inside Lambeau Field. It's very sunny out, so we tried to find a place where you could actually see us and we wouldn't get washed out. But let's go through our position by position and coaching grades that we do each week, and start with you and the quarterback. A very eventful day for Mr. Sam Darnold. What would you grade Sam Darnold? And play along, please, in the comment section.
Yeah, I'll give him a B plus. And it's a B plus, emphasis on the plus, because of the drive in the fourth quarter. He was lights out in the first half. Just 3 touchdown passes. Probably could have been 4, but they decided to give Jordan Addison a ball on the jet sweep. Sam Darnold played lights out in the first half. Nothing, no notes, nothing you can do wrong. But kind of to piggyback off of the third quarter play calling, like Sam Darnold's issue through a month, and champagne problems again, because he's 4-0, has been he's third quarters, they seem to stall out. He's mentioned it a couple of times now, and he seems to lament that after the game. But why I end up on a B plus is because regardless of how much the offense stagnated after halftime, when the Vikings needed points, when they walked back onto the field, the Packers had just cut it to 6. Lambeau Field is going nuts. And this is really the first time I feel like Sam Darnold had felt genuine adversity, because even the drive against the Packers or the drive against the 49ers, I thought was very impressive. We've talked about that one at length. That was at home. It's a 6-point game. Lambeau Field is going nuts. You're walking back onto the field. If you go 3 and out there, I think you lose. And you don't go 3 and out. Instead, you first play 17-yard pass to Justin Jefferson. 2 plays later, 27-yard pass to Justin Jefferson. And while that stalls out before you get into the end zone, you put 3 points on the board, and those 3 points end up being the difference in the game. So B plus for me. It's not an A, because I think that there were times where Sam Darnold probably could have pushed it forward, built on the lead. He didn't. He had an interception on a ball that I probably think I would have overturned it if I was the ref. It looked like Xavier McKinney bobbled out of bounds. He had a fumble where he just clearly didn't feel a blitz from Keshawn Nixon. So there were areas or things that were left to be desired there. But lights out in the first half, and when you had to have it late, you got it. So another step in Sam Darnold's growth. I'll say B plus.
Blue Stork says both teams got lucky and unlucky all game. Our first half domination bailed us out of our bad luck. Yeah, there was, when we talk about luck in an individual game, it's hard to do. Bounces, fumbles, interceptions, overturns, and referee calls and things like that. But I did think that this game had both sides of that for either team. The Packers got some good luck with the ball slipping through Jalen Naylor's hands. Normally, he would never be out there. And just a suggestion for Jalen Naylor, if you can't see it in the sun and it's blowing in the wind, just let it go. No one is ever going to cause any problem if you let it go. Don't try to reach up over your head. That's kind of, and he's a great player, so I don't mean this as an insult, but it's what any of us would look like if a punt was coming at us. If you don't practice them in games like Brandon Powell, it is very hard to do. He just should have gotten away from that one. Yep. But that happens there. And then you also see an interception that the Packers get to keep. That's another good luck. The Vikings cause a fumble at the end of the game with Byron Murphy. That's fumbling is kind of good luck on your side. Yeah. So I haven't felt like through 4 games that it's swung the pendulum one side or the other. The Vikings have just played better through 4 games in each one of the games, which is probably why I don't want to spend all day talking about the second half, because still, if you ask me which football team played better, I would say the Vikings. To your grade for Sam Darnold, I think a B, maybe a, yeah, it's hard to say. What did he end up with? 120 quarterback rating or something?
123, 4 quarterback, 20 of 28 for 275, 3 touchdowns. Pretty damn good.
Yeah,
so.
you can't be too tough on Sam Darnold there. So probably a B plus. The interception is a little bit on the underthrown side. You can't get strip sacked there. That's another thing where he has to be aware that he has to see the blitz. Maybe it was a protection issue. He's got to pull the ball in a little bit more. But some of the throws today, once again, the throw to Justin Jefferson is equally as amazing of a catch, where Jefferson just casually does something absolutely absurd. And I think that's the catch that Darnold was talking about after the game when he said it was one of the best catches he's ever seen. But the fact is, I'm not sure which one he was talking about, because there were 2 of them. There was 2 catches that Justin Jefferson made today where you just went, oh my gosh, which kind of makes me think a little bit more of Jefferson did some unbelievable things that helped Darnold's quarterback rating be what it was. A lot of the throws that he made were to wide open receivers, which he does not have to apologize for, but it was a little more on edge today than it has been at other times. And the strip sack and the interception, those are 2 different opportunities to put the game away. And both reminded me of what he did in San Francisco, throwing the pick to Fred Warner, where it was just a little bit unnecessary to throw the ball, like a little bit tuck it and protect it a little bit more in that spot. But what Aaron Jones said, where I was sold on a high grade still for Sam Darnold, is you I think, maybe asked Aaron Jones like what Sam Darnold was like in the huddle. And he was talking about how calm he was, how he was reminding everyone of details. Hey, and this is at Lambeau. This is the crowd sensing that there's something happening. And he's going to other players and saying, hey, if you've got a question, look to me. I've got the answers. I'm the dude. And the fact that Sam Darnold is taking this I'm the man type of approach in the biggest situations, not looking to Aaron Jones, not looking to somebody else to be the leader, that gets high marks for me. That was a very memorable, and now he's 2 for 2 in situations where, hey, go finish the game, and he ends up doing it. As far as running backs go, there wasn't much from Ty Chandler today. Didn't suspect there would be. I thought Aaron Jones was nothing short of absolutely fantastic. I mean, he's got catches out of the backfield. He had near 100 yards, but maybe the most impressive play of the day from him was on the big throw to get them started. Aaron Jones steps up and sticks a dude. Right. I mean, just blitzer coming through, step up, make a big block. And I don't think what you maybe fully understand by seeing him on TV, Aaron Jones is small. He is not a big guy. He's like 5'9", but he played like he's about 6'4" in that moment and just stuck that blitzer. And this is why when you ask people about Aaron Jones, they lose their minds. The crowd loved him here today. He said the players after the game, the Packers were giving him a hard time because he didn't score. And he was like, who won the football game? But just Aaron Jones, I give an A for him. I thought overall running backs, it was okay. It wasn't his fault he didn't get the ball more from Kevin O'Connell, or that he could have utilized Ty Chandler more on a little swing pass or something. Sorry to obsess over that. But I'll give Aaron Jones's return to Green Bay nothing short of an A.
Yeah, I'd stick with you with an A, and I did think that you mentioned it, but the interaction that Aaron Jones described to us reporters after the game, where the Vikings are walking onto the field, about to kneel the clock out, and the Packers defenders are literally, according to Aaron Jones, telling him, you didn't get your Lambeau leap. We kept you out of the end zone. And he said, like you said, I don't care. I got the win. And by the way, he did get a Lambeau leap. He leaped into the crowd as the Vikings were walking to the locker room. Cool moment for him. This place adores him. And if you ever meet anyone that knows Aaron Jones and you ask about Aaron Jones, they will tell you he's the best person they know. Everybody says that. Everyone I've ever spoken to says Aaron Jones is the best person they know. And he's a pretty good football player that went for 93 today and also 46 yards receiving. So he's a pretty damn good football player too.
Aaron Jones is the type of player that you just hope every franchise gets to have once
At
in
least.
a lifetime.
Yep.
This kind of player who impacts people the way he does. So it's really special for him. He gets the A. Wide receivers,
A. Like A. A plus, A plus, A plus. Justin Jefferson is amazing. Like we could say that every week. Like that can just be a scheduled tweet. But the catch in the end zone, coupled with the catch on the sideline, I think I described it earlier in the podcast. He was Moss on the catch in the end zone. He was Carter on the catch on the sideline. And then you got 72 yards from Jordan Addison, 2 touchdowns. Ankle looked pretty good on the stutter and go on the first drive of the game. Also looked pretty good when he juked Kayshawn Nixon out of his shoes on the jet sweep. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, the 1-2 punch. It's going to be really, really hard to scheme against. Just really no notes there. The receivers are really good, and it's crazy to think that they are getting a top 5 tight end in the league back here and within the next month. Sky's the limit with those guys.
And we're going to get to that portion of the program shortly about whether they continue this, where the bar gets set now, because it is a different world when you're 4-0, then even 2-0, 3-0.
Yep.
This is basically a quarter of the season that has now been completed, and they are in the driver's seat in the National Football Conference. And when you talk about that, though, it has to be discussed how good Addison looked along with Sam Darnold. He had played in training camp and then the first half of the first game, really well with Darnold. It looked like they had a good connection, and he ran a couple routes in the Giants game. They were like, wow, okay, reminder, first round draft pick here. And then to come out and do it again, even just bolstering Sam Darnold's confidence in his receivers. Spectacular game. And I just thought, get it to those guys on short passes a little bit more when you got a chance to go win a football game. Trust them with the football in their hands. Also, if we include tight ends, Josh Oliver catches a touchdown and then recovers the onside kick to make sure that wasn't going anywhere at the end of the game. So a couple of key plays for him. The offensive line is always tough on an instant reaction because sometimes we think one thing and then we look at the data and it's something else. 2 sacks for Sam?
Yep.
2 sacks for Sam Darnold. I thought, though, early in the game, he had a ton of time. And then in some of the biggest moments, he had a ton of time. And in between, the overall pass protection was not always ideal for him, and he was pressured too much. This is back to me. I'm going to give it a B-. They ran it really well at times. There were other times where they just needed get the yard. And I think that it's nice and cute last week where they did the end around or reverse, whatever you want to call it, and the big moment on 4th down in the middle of the field. It felt like the Packers kind of knew that might happen, and it also felt like the Packers knew who they didn't trust on the offensive line to go behind in those, and one type of situations or short yardage situations. So the fact that they did not get that 4th and 1 when they should have been able to finish the game off, they didn't go for another one, which I was okay with when they punted away. But I also thought, man, if you really trust your offensive line here, this is going to be an easy handoff, first down. And the fact that they didn't do that, there's still issues there. There's still pressure there. It's not a perfect offensive line, but this is about as good of a run of defensive lines that you will ever see over the first 4 weeks. Even the Giants, you have to give them a ton of credit for their D line to survive it and win every game and have Sam Darnold not get sacked or pressure that often. I think overall is really good for them. They're all healthy, which is really good for them. I don't know how the right guard played today. We'll have to review that, I guess, when we go back through the PFF stuff. But I will give them a B minus. They had great moments early in the game, struggled a little bit later on.
I think that's fair because in the and one situations, you didn't get it. Fourth and one, you get it, you win the game. Great play by the Packers, but also if you're a line and you're an imposing line that's going to get an A from Dane and Coller, you got to get the and one there. Ed Ingram, there was a weird play where Aaron Jones caught a screen and Ed Ingram slowed down. He could have ran to the pylon. Ed Ingram was like obsessed with blocking this guy. That guy didn't really matter. If you just run, Aaron's going to follow you into the end zone. That was a play that stood out. But I'm fine with your B minus grade because I thought Kenny Clark had the opportunity to absolutely destroy this game.
Yep.
And he did not. He did not have a sack. He did not have a TFL. And I need to go back and rewatch certain film on Ed Ingram, but there were times where I thought he was going to get bench pressed into Sam Darnold, and he didn't. So this could have had the opportunity to be a disastrous game for the offensive line, and it absolutely was not.
And I have been in recent years probably one of the larger Garrett Bradbury defenders. I know that he still can have his bad games. He is battling through multiple injuries over the beginning of the season, and I thought today he did as well as you could have asked him to do against his nemesis. Now, maybe Clark isn't what he was even last year because he's been battling a toe injury, but if you're going to hold up and give up, I don't remember any time where Kenny Clark was just blasting through and getting after Sam Darnold. And that's how he can have the game he had. If they're getting interior pressure and crushing him, it would have been so much harder. The protection overall in the second half was definitely not as good. And so they don't get an A, but I don't think it's worthy of a C because it was so good early on in the game. The defensive line, I am curious to know what you think here because I probably wouldn't have it that high, but I don't know where you have it.
Yeah, like C plus feels like maybe a little harsh grading, but they didn't generate a lot of pressure. I think a lot of that, like I have to go back and watch because it wasn't. Was it they weren't generating pressure, or was it that they weren't sending pressure? Like what we've credited the Vikings a lot with though over the first month is that their four-man rush has been able to get home, and it didn't really today. So I can't go A. I would maybe hover around like a B minus, but I think maybe we'll just go C plus. We'll grade hard because they were so good for the first 3 weeks of the season. And did they sack Jordan Love today? They had one sack of Jordan Love today. They did hold the Packers to 86 yards rushing, but I think the scoreboard held the Packers to 86 yards rushing.
And I think Jacobs averaged like 5 yards a carry or more.
It wasn't like a banner day for the defensive line. You didn't get home. You didn't see I think like the mind games that you see out of this defensive line sometimes where it really did look like they were in Brock Purdy's head and it really did look like they were in CJ Stroud's head. I think that the turnovers probably got into Jordan Love's head, but the pressure, I don't think it really got home as much as we're used to. So C plus with the caveat that I understand that that's a hard grade, but I think they have earned the right to be graded difficultly because they've shown their ceiling. And I think they would all agree like they didn't hit it today. They didn't come close to it. But they did enough early on. But I'll say C plus. If you want to go B minus, that's fine too.
I probably would go C plus. I just didn't think that they were as effective as you would want. And this is where, in a game like this, where they are missing that one thing on the D line, the interior pressure, is where I thought that Jordan Love had a lot of opportunities to be in the pocket or to scramble a little bit. That it doesn't mean that they played horribly, I didn't think. And I guess when we go back and look, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a lot of pressures on him where the pocket was collapsing and he had to scramble and guys were winning against their blocks. But I also thought that if you get to the quarterback one or two more times, this game is really over.
Mhm.
They just didn't quite get there in the same way. Another part of that too is that they just didn't send many people at the quarterback, which probably could have made it look a little different. But yeah, I don't want to be over critical about it. C plus, B minus is fine. But when you have set the bar as high as they have, we're probably also grading on a curve of where they have set the bar. As far as the linebackers and secondary, this one is hard because I can't figure out how much. It wasn't like anyone was getting roasted. It just seemed like there was open people. I mean, I thought Josh Metellus had a bit of a tough day. He had a penalty, and there was another screen pass where he overran it. So in coverage, it turned into a big play where it was a bubble screen, and to give up what 400 yards almost to Jordan Love, even in the game circumstance, all they need is a couple of stops there, so a little bit better coverage, and they're going to get off the field. At the
Mhm.
same time, how can you complain too much about interceptions, fumbles
Mhm.
caused? I might have to put it in the same place where it's more of a B minus because I'm balancing out. Well, you made all these plays to keep yourself in it, but you also had to make those plays. But also, you can't really make those plays if you're being asked to play in the parking lot and try not to give up, the big explosive, even though you did anyway. So I'm very back and forth on this. I think it's a hard one to determine because if you're down 28 points, you will throw for a bleep ton of yards. We went over this for years with who about the stats that got put up. But at the same time, you can't be as close as it was. And you can't rely at the end of the game on just getting an interception or a fumble.
Yeah, I think being buoyed by turnovers isn't something that you want to rely on week after week, but they get credit for in a time where they were hemorrhaging points throughout the second half. They came up with two really big plays down the stretch. Kind of a gift from Jordan Love, to be honest, on the Byron Murphy interception. But that play's there to be made, and he did catch the ball. That has been an issue for Byron Murphy at times, where the ball's there and it's not caught. He camps under it, he catches it, and then he makes an even better play on the sideline, punching the ball out of Tucker Kraft's hands. Cam Bynum recovers it, does like a backhand spring in the end zone. Maybe don't do that, Cam. Love you, Cam, because he's a fun guy. But the last thing you need is your starting safety to get hurt on doing a backflip. Yeah, I think B minus is fair. Like a lot of this, like we're thinking about it in the sense of like what their peak looks like, which is what we've seen for 3 weeks. And today it looked not so good after halftime, and that's okay. But like overall, I think why we're hovering B minus C plus is just because like there felt like there was still meat on the bone here for this defense. And I think they feel that too. I think that's pretty clear. They feel that as well.
Well, and that matches up with what Kevin O'Connell said after the game, where it felt like it wasn't a really celebratory post-game press
Yeah.
conference. It felt like in some ways he was a little defensive, but also saying like, yeah, we know that this was not the ideal perfect performance today, and that they didn't just close out the game as they probably should have when they were up as much as they were. So it would be hard to give A's across the board here. Special teams F to the Packers for missing a couple field goals that really changed the way this game ended up playing out. I don't have much more to say other than Ryan Wright had one that went out of the end zone and then one that he did a really good job on. Will Reichard made the key kick.
Mhm.
Even if it is close, it still was a clutch kick at Lambeau Field. There was nothing to talk about with kickers on the Vikings side for this day. That's important. As far as coaching, though, how do you weigh the coaching grade when we know what happened in the second half, but we also know how prepared they were with their opening script to jump on this team by 14 points?
Yeah, I think I'll probably be at a B plus just because it did feel like it goes back to that feel of like how to play with a lead. And I think if we're just talking about the first half, it's an A plus. You should have been up 28-0 had it not been for maybe this is a little bit of coaching, but Jalen Naylor trying to catch the ball over his head. Like you were effectively up 28-0 because of good coaching, good scheme. Obviously, the players make it happen. But after halftime, it wasn't great. There's a reason it ends as a 2-point game when it felt like it could have been a blowout runaway. But I'll stay at B plus just because I think like the first half matters. They don't have to give those 28 points back. And then when you had to have it, like Kevin O'Connell, like as much as we want to debate and we will, like the aggressiveness versus the conservativeness and like where's the happy medium, it was correct to be aggressive down when they'd cut the lead to 6 and you lean on Sam Darnold and you lean on Justin Jefferson and you're willing to not kind of curl up and turtle and just hope that we can run the clock out and the Packers screw up. Like they made that happen. They went down the field. And I think the coaching deserves a lot of credit for that, for having the confidence in the players to go out and make it happen. There were things that we're gonna lament, and when we go back and rewatch the game, there's gonna be certain moments where we say like that wasn't it, or like that needs to be better. Kevin O'Connell said it probably 10 times today. It starts with me. It needs to be better. That doesn't feel like lip service. That feels like something he actually believes. But I'll still stay at B plus because it was almost a blowout, and then when it wasn't, you got the plays you needed to have.
Sorry, for the special teams, I did forget the nailer as part of it. So I did,
Yeah.
up and down, hard to grade special teams. Anyway, to your point about the coaching, I would probably go B. It is, as you mentioned, very difficult to ignore when we give the grade, wanting to give an A plus for the first half. Uh, Maybe in coaching, part of it is Jalen Naylor stay away from the football.
Yeah.
That could be some of it. Here's some critique. They wasted some timeouts where they really didn't need to. Now O'Connell did a good job with his challenges, but they wasted some timeouts where the call wasn't getting in. And I've wondered if sometimes O'Connell is arguing with the referees and doesn't get the call in as fast as he needs to with Darnold. There was a little bit of confusion there where he just took the snap and then slid down. And then there was another time where he took a snap and just threw it out of the back of the end zone because they didn't get the look that they liked, when maybe simple would have been a better thing there rather than oh, well, if you don't like the look, throw it out of bounds. But that stopped the clock.
Mhm.
So the whole management of the game overall, when they got the lead, was not good at all. I probably would have given a B, maybe even a B minus, because I felt like on both sides, they just didn't have a good sense for how to close out this game, and they nearly gave it away because of that. That said, just from now on, there's going to be a different grading system. When you're 4-0, there's a different grading system.
Yeah, yeah.
This is now, folks, a championship caliber grading system, because this isn't like, hey, maybe they'll win 7, 8, 9 games and they'll be in the playoff race when they get to Detroit at the end of the season. And, oh, good job, Sam Darnold. You didn't botch everything, so you get a B plus. Oh, no, no, no. After today, when you start 4-0, in the National Football League, that means you are shot to the top of all those very important power rankings that a lot of websites do. And you know how much those mean to me. It means that the bar has risen now from, hey, maybe this will be a playoff team. Oh, wow, they're kind of the darlings of the start of the season, to, you know what? You have a ton of guys that are in their late 20s or 30s
Mhm.
or mid 30s. Some are as old as me that are playing on this football team. You have veterans, you have expensive players, you have a quarterback who was drafted number 3 overall. You got great coaches on both sides. Go win something. Like, I think after today, I'm changing my mindset from, hey, this is pretty good, to, hey, you know what? Now you should go win something. You've proven to be good enough. Go do it. Don't blow a 28-7 lead and let the other team be in it in the last second. Finish them off. That is the new standard, not just, and it's, look, it's 4-0. It's Lambeau. You won. That's great. But I think a switch flips now to, don't go to London and disappoint. Don't come back against the Detroit Lions and go, well, we lost to the Lions. They're a championship team and we're still on the, no, 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 no. You're supposed to be there now after what you have done. I mean, you've got a left tackle who's the highest paid. You've got a wide receiver who's the highest paid. You've got first round draft picks, though I was told that Kwesi couldn't draft anyone, that Jordan Addison is out there playing spectacular football. You've got depth. Kamu Grugier-Hill makes another huge play today. You've got depth here at all the positions. There is no excuse for this team not to, the way they are right now, go down the stretch as one of the best teams in the NFC and compete for the conference, compete in the playoffs, all those things. It's a long way to go. But in my mind, today changed that. If they came here and lost, I'd go, well, it's going to be kind of one of those seasons where we bounce up and down and they've got some good and some bad. Now my expectation is different. My expectation is that we are going to Detroit in the last week of the season to fight for the NFC North, to fight for top billing in the entire conference. And anything less than that, I will be now critical of, because that's the bar that you've set. I don't care what it was from Vegas 6 weeks ago. I don't care what our predictions were 6 weeks ago before the season, because we don't know what's going to happen in the offseason. But now that we've seen it, and the number of players who are in the key points in their careers, like Aaron Jones, this is now an important year to actually win. And when we always, sorry, Dane, when we always look so far out into the future, and I love you front office brained people who want to know what's going to happen in 2026. I'm one of you. I feel you. But the moment is now. I don't care about the JJ McCarthy, Sam Darnold decision, honestly, at this moment. It's interesting to talk about, but I don't give a bleep, because next week they play the New York Jets in a huge game for them to go 5-0. And I also think, too, that when we always are looking future, we got to remember there's only so many of these seasons that you get.
Yeah.
Like Randall Cunningham goes 15-1. The next year, things don't go the same way. In 2017, 2009, you got your year. It popped up. It happened. They didn't take full advantage and actually get there. Take full advantage. Get there. Make it happen. That's my bar now, and it's not going to be anything short of that. So if they go on a losing streak, I'm going to say, what a huge disappointment. And when they do lose, and they will eventually, we're going to grade them much tougher, I think, than we would say. Because I came into this year prepared to be like, hey, well, they lost to San Francisco, but they're not there yet. Mindset changed. That's what this means to me.
That was a great segue, because every podcast we end with like, what does it mean? And you basically just took grades and turned it into what does it mean? Because what does this mean? It absolutely means that they're a championship contender now. I was thinking to myself, I think I said it to you, I think I said it to Will Raggets when they were up 28-0. Are they the best team in football? Are they? Like, I get it. Like, they hemorrhaged points in the second half. It was close. Green Bay is a team that I think is going to be a double-digit win team in the NFC. Where does that leave the Vikings, that they had such a good first half and such a bad second half? But I think when I have that moment of, are they the best team in football, through 4 weeks in the first half of week 4, like, that says everything that needs to be said about what the expectations for this team should be moving forward. And I don't think you have to just take it now as, well, when is the other shoe gonna drop? When is Sam Darnold gonna turn into a pumpkin? When is the Minnesota sports curse gonna come back? Like, you're right, you only get a handful of these every so every lifetime is probably a little bit, like, not enough, but, like, there aren't a lot of moments like this where it feels like they could be one of the best teams in the NFL. And so I think lean in if you haven't already, and be hard on these guys now, and, like, have expectations. And, like, if they go to London next week and they lay an egg, that should make you really mad, because this team should be above something like that now. They have talent, they have coaching, they have all the players I think that they need to reach a top level of success, and they're getting more with a guy like Hawkinson coming back in. So I do think the sky is the limit. I've been kind of cautioning people, well, like, should you go all in? Should you push your chips to the center of the table? Go ahead. They're 4-0. They just walked into Lambeau and they beat the Green Bay Packers. And now you can start to project out, like, the Jets lost. They could be 5-0. Then you get the bye. Then you coming out of the bye, you go to Detroit. Like, that's a big matchup. If you beat Detroit, then you're 6, like, you're allowed to do all those things now because of what the Vikings have done through the first month of the season. This is not a small sample size. This is a quarter of the year. And I think in, like, other sports, a lot of times the quarter poll is like when you figure out, is this team good? We're basically at that. They're a good team. I think one of the best in the league, and I think we should start talking about them like it.
Horse racing people are infuriated that the quarter pole is actually 3/4 of the way, but don't correct him on that. I got it. I got you, horse racing people. But yes, it used to be so much more easy to talk about, through 1/4 of the season when there were 16 games. Now the 17th has made it a little more wonky, but if they had gone 4-0 and they had beaten the Jaguars, Titans, and Colts, I would have said, okay, folks. And look, I remember 2022 was a difficult season to cover this team because we kept seeing all the reasons that it wasn't going to sustain, and yet they kept winning. And so it was like hard to do post games because we'd go, well, that Taylor Heineke just kind of threw you an interception, or the guy double doinked, or whatever. This doesn't feel this way. They are 4 for 4 at outplaying teams. So that is the expectation, that they should outplay teams. And the other thing is, too, that if Sam Darnold is capable of playing this well, and it has not been perfect, but it has been about as close to perfect as you could have expected, outside of a couple of turnovers. If he's capable of playing this well, then he's capable of doing it for a longer sample size. And we have seen that through the history of this team, that there are quarterbacks who have come in and had great seasons, and at least through 4 games, we're getting there. We did see it in 2016 with Sam Bradford. I think that's different because of the structure of the team.
Mm-hmm.
They had such bad tackle play. There were so many injuries. There was so much drama that was self-created by a gentleman who lost one of his eyes during the season. Way more drama, way more ups and downs throughout that year. They at this point, they were 2 weeks away from firing a coordinator, which doesn't feel like where we're at with this Vikings team. So I think it is a lot different. But you said, in a lifetime, and for this franchise, that has kind of been the thing. It's only been a handful of times throughout the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and now here where we are now. It's only been a handful of times that you could say that they even started 3-1 or better than that, and that does raise the bar. So I think that doesn't really change anything that they're doing. There's nothing actionable. It just changes our expectation now. The expectation is, forget what we said before, and let's think about where they're going from here, which makes the next couple of weeks, well, the bye week, but London, then the Lions out of the bye week, really, really fascinating to talk about, which is why there will be probably about 14 podcasts that show up in your podcast feed and on YouTube throughout this week. We'll have the chats. We'll have guests, of course, as always. I'll have a guest on, one of my favorite guys, Will Parkinson, for this week. So thank you all so much for joining and watching from Lambeau Field. It's been a great time here. It's actually probably the most beautiful that we've seen it going to Lambeau just here today. So it was wonderful. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Thank you very much, Dane Mizutani. And check out the purpleinsider.com for my articles, Pioneer Press for his from Lambeau. And we will catch you all very, very soon. Thanks, everybody, so much for watching.